Hey, everybody. Welcome to a very special podcast today with myself, Jen, and Joe. And today we have some super favorite friends of ours, Ryan and Abby Witherall. So thank you guys so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having us on. Yeah.
So today we're going to spend a few minutes talking with you guys about deal breakdown, right? So you guys just did your very first creative finance deal, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yay. Congratulations on that. So with deal breakdown, we're going to talk about a few things. How did that situation go? How did that lead come in? We want to know the scoop of what had happened. So can you really quickly, 30 seconds, who is Ryan and Abby?
Sure. Well, you want to go ahead?
We are Ryan and Abby, and we have 3 young kids that we homeschool. And we live in Pennsylvania, and we love camping.
Yep.
30 seconds relax.
Oh, there you go.
Bam. Perfect. So you guys live in PA. You joined into our coaching program not long ago, and this is where you guys wanted to start learning how to buy these beautiful houses in beautiful neighborhoods. And we got into creative financing. So you guys put in some work, got some leads, got a deal, right? So let's talk about that journey. So how did you find this lead? How did the seller reach out to you, or did you reach out to them? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, we found it by posting the blue ad, like you guys taught us, and we started getting in a lot of leads. And this one seller reached out to us. He actually, oddly enough, this was a house that was already on the market, but it hadn't been moving. His realtor hadn't been able to find a buyer for him. So I got we went through, the 10 questions that you guys lay out, and went through that really quickly. And then I got on the phone with him. We had a phone call about it. And it turned out he had actually already talked to somebody about kind of a subject to sort of purchase, and that had fallen through. So I didn't actually have to do too much like orientate. I mean, he already understood everything before we even got on the phone call. But talked to his realtor about it, kind of, I had a few more calls. It took us a while to get to the point where we were ready to kind of put it on paper. But yeah, that's how we found it, through the blue ad.
So you posted
and he had already moved too. So he was very motivated because he was making the 2 mortgage payments.
Yeah, the house was empty.
Okay, so so you posted that blue post we talk about in Facebook groups. Lead didn't cost you anything. They reached out to you, said, I'm frustrated. I have a house on the market and it's not selling.
Right, exactly.
Right? So you initiate the conversation through messaging at first, or did you call them right away?
It was just through messaging first. Yeah, just asking the 10 questions.
Was that hard?
Yeah, it was super easy with him. Because he was a motivated seller, and that may have been one of the first motivated sellers that I really talked to. And it was so easy. I mean, just asking him all the questions. He was super quick, and then able to get on a phone call like an hour later. We were able to schedule it for. So that all was super simple.
Got it. Right. So motivated seller, vacant house. Now, was this some like old, like junky house that you guys were going to put like a lot of work into?
Not at all.
Yeah, this one was just built like a couple years ago. Basically turnkey, almost brand new, which is a contrast to like all of our prior investment, because we had bought some older like row homes in Lancaster City and York City, and these are like 100-plus-year-old homes. They have all kinds of problems, and this was so nice to be a different one where it's like it's new, new systems in the house, like brand new house.
Only lived in for a year.
Yeah, it doesn't need anything. So that was awesome to find a deal like that, and to be actually able to purchase it and make it work as a rental through creative finance.
And that's why I love this strategy, because I feel like when all of us new investors get started in real estate, we always think we have to buy these old fixer-upper junker houses, need a lot of work. You open up one thing, it can, gets more involved, and that gets to be a lot, right? So here you are now buying a house that's a year or 2 years old, turnkey, motivated seller. Like, that doesn't typically happen, does it? Is it just because you're Ryan and Abby, or does that happen? Like, that's not typical. That's what's exciting about that deal.
Right. Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, our strategy before, we didn't really have a strategy. It was just, what do you find on the MLS? And most of you can't cash flow most of the properties that you find through the MLS, and it's so expensive to get in. So we actually, the 2 that we bought, we basically ran out of money. as soon as we bought those two because it's so expensive to get in on those deals. And like I said, they're not nice homes. They're not like beautiful turnkey properties. I mean, they are good homes now, but you know, they have all the problems that come with old homes. So it was really amazing to be able to purchase something like this that's worth so much more than those homes were. I mean, like 3 times what those homes are worth, but closed with less money up front.
Well, let's slow down right there then. I wanted to talk about, you know, what did it look like getting into this deal? You know, when you went to the closing table, you weren't having to put like 20, 30% down.
Right. No, we ended up giving the seller, he did want some cash down, which we were able to make work, kind of because we were expecting to have to also cover, we offered to cover the closing costs for all the sellers, closing costs and the transfer taxes for everyone, for both sides, and the realtor fees as well. And he had a realtor, but it ended up being that the realtor kind of backed herself out of it and let us just close with him directly. So since we didn't have a realtor fee, we were okay giving him a little bit more money than we normally would put down. So it ended up, we closed, I think we gave him $20,000, which ended up being, I don't know, like 5% down, something like that, or less.
Okay.
Yeah, so between that and closing costs, I think the closing costs and insurance came up to about $13,000.
So wait a minute. So you bought this house, you came up with less than 5% down, turnkey house, beautiful neighborhood. Now, did you have to get bank financing for that?
No, we did not. We were able to do it without involving a bank.
Right. So this is why we love doing what we call creative real estate, is you're able to buy the house, take ownership, and that loan stayed in the seller's name, right?
Yeah.
So what was the interest rate on that? Do you remember?
Yeah, 4 1/8%.
Okay. So a little bit under 4.2%, which if you're listening down the road, right now rates are like 7-8%. So what a deal, right? You're getting it for almost half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not coming up with all the money. So, okay. So you've gone through now closing, you're about to attempt closing. Like, what was that like? Was it hard? Was it fairly easy? I know there's always some things that come up, but what was closing on that deal like?
It was really, pretty simple.
Yeah. We did it at UPS.
Yeah. It was a little bit like getting from signing the purchase and sale agreement to closing. I think it's just because it was our first time. I didn't realize, like, we were working with an attorney who knows what she's doing. So on her end, she didn't have a lot, there wasn't a ton of communication, and we were kind of like, I think, wanting more communication because it was kind of our first time doing that sort of a closing where it's not like you don't have real estate agents involved. But it was super smooth. Yeah.
So it was almost too easy to where you're like, hey, this should be more difficult. I should be more involved, but you weren't.
The most difficult part was closing at UPS, which we wouldn't do in the future, but
we'll talk about mobile notaries. Definitely helpful. They come to your house, which has been great.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, wow, like bravo. So you bought a beautiful house. It's a year or two old, not really a whole lot of cash onto it. Got way better terms than you can get currently without having to get bank approvals, without having to come up with years of W-2s, and you didn't have to run the mile under 6 minutes and do all these crazy things that are able to qualify. You just found a motivated seller, or they actually found you. They raised their hand and said, I need help, and it's not selling. And here you're able to get into a heck of a deal.
Yeah.
So what did you end up doing with this house? Were you tempted to like move in, or like what happened now?
we ended up doing rent to own with it, which we were really excited to do. And we got our tenants not that long ago, and they're all moved in. And they're really excited now for the whole process. But yeah, we did rent to own for it.
Awesome. So that's one of our favorites with rent to own.
Yeah, being able to, put in some tenant buyers, and ideally the goal is to be able to help them become homeowners.
Yeah, we're really excited about. Yeah.
And I can't imagine the house you're going to get many maintenance calls, but part of the reason why we also love rent to own is because our renters are responsible for all the maintenance, the repairs, the utilities, and all those kind of things. But on a 1 or 2 year old house, guys, like I can't imagine they're going to do anything.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, maybe you paint like your
I was
bedroom.
like, maybe they'll change their color of paint or something, but
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. So you found a deal, didn't cost any money. And so what was that change like now from having to go from like the fixer uppers houses to like beautiful houses? Is this like the strategy you want to do more often? Was it a lot easier than having to do those fixer uppers, or you're like, hey, I did it once, I'm going back to the junkers?
No, for sure. We would love to just, as many pretty homes as we can do. We love it. Yeah. We love being able to get these homes that don't need a lot of work, don't take a lot of effort.
Yeah, because we also do all, like, we've always, for our experience, have done all the repairs ourselves. So it also frees up our time when it is not a fixer-upper. We actually get to see each other, which when you're doing work projects all the time, it's not the case that you're seeing one another. So we loved the fact that it was just completely turnkey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's been working well for us. That's why we love it. So
yeah, and I think if you could maybe expand on that a little bit, because anyone who's listening, they might be the traditional buy a house, fix it up, spend their weekends there. And like, it's kind of fun in the beginning. I remember when we first started, bring the kids over, but then it gets old and the time is gone before you know it, like you said. So, anyone listening, like, what would you say, like, what should be like their first step if they're looking to, try to get into this, what you're calling pretty house, to buy on creative financing? Like, what was, looking back, like one of the first pivotal moments for you guys, say like, this is possible and this is what we need to do to really start?
I would say, like, probably, the first I kind of learned about the approach, kind of on YouTube, where I heard, when you guys were on the Bigger Pockets podcast. That was sort of our first introduction to it. But I think you kind of learn about it that way, but unless you actually have somebody kind of walk you through the process, because it's more than just understanding the kind of the fundamentals of like a wraparound mortgage or subject to. It really is everything from the marketing and branding to lead generation to signing an agreement with a seller, because we'd only used real estate agents before for purchases. Mm-hmm. So I think for us, it was really critical to be able to join your group and have you guys kind of walk us along each step of the way, because you guys do this yourselves. So you know every, all the little facets about it. Or I even had, Joe, you called me up a few times just to check in how things were going, and offer, any suggestions or help along the way. So that was, I think, really critical for us. There's no way we could do this without having somebody to guide us along the path.
Or at least not as quickly. Like if you were trying to do it your own, it would be like years before.
Yeah, well, I remember when we first started, I was scared. Like, I was like, we got to do what? Like, are you sure? Like, I'm like looking at him, like, do you really know what you're doing? So, having that, like you said, that person, that mentor to really hold your hand and walk you through it, it's so critical to be able to have that to fall on. So I love that. You guys took the messy, massive action though, like everything, every step of the way, like you're just putting in the time. And Ryan, to go back to when we first started, you even said this was the first motivated seller you talked to. So does that mean you heard a lot of no's when you were chatting with people?
Yeah. I had a lot of phone calls already with you and chatted with tons of people. And, there's just a lot of people that talk to you. They're going to do better selling their house on the, with the realtor. And there's just not the motivation there. So it was really eye-opening to me to talk to somebody who really wasn't, because before that, it's hard to kind of conceptualize what that looks like. Then once you find somebody, you see the motivation, you see what it's like working with somebody like that. And it's just really eye-opening.
Yeah, and I think the key to that game is follow-up too, because a lot of those folks who maybe you did have that conversation with, who thought maybe it would have been easier to list it with an agent, maybe has the same experience as your seller did, where they had it listed with an agent and it wasn't going well. They weren't getting the showings, they weren't getting the house sold. So maybe in the beginning where you're having that initial conversation, and I was like, no, this isn't going to work for me, I'm just going to list it with an agent. Maybe the seller that you bought their house, if you reached out to them 4 months before they had their house listed with an agent, maybe they would have had the same attitude. But maybe having it on the market and having the market respond to what was going on, they realized that wasn't actually their best choice, right? And then here's somebody like you guys come along and can pay way more because now there's no commissions. You guys are even paying all the closing costs, so they don't even have any fees coming out of it. So by saving a 6% real estate commission, and this isn't a $50,000 home, this is a new home, so it's a little bit pricier. So a 6% commission on that price home, plus the closing costs, you know, they saved tens of thousands of dollars in commissions and fees by also working with you too. So not only did you help them create a win and help them with their frustration, they had a real estate problem, they're also going to make out financially better in this situation too, because of how much more you're able to get to the seller directly because there's no agents and fees involved. So some really great selling points there on why this is a good fit for some people. And for all those others, Ryan and Abby, who maybe said, no, maybe it's better off, follow up with them. See if that house did sell, right? Yeah. And that's the name of the game. So somebody's new, just starting off. I want to think about I can buy these pretty houses. And these are neighborhoods where you would live in, right? These are neighborhoods where like you would be proud to own some homes in, right? And it's a really exciting thing because I know we've done many deals where I'm like, wow, we own a house in this neighborhood now. How cool, right? And these are really nice spots. So targeting the areas, super easy, like what you mentioned on Facebook, having the conversations, which seem to be pretty easy. What would you suggest for somebody brand spanking new? Like, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. I want to do this too. How do I get started, or where do I get started? What would you recommend now that you've done a deal?
I mean, I guess just, you know, start taking, you know, the massive, messy action. And maybe that's, you know, kind of like before we even talked to you guys, I'd already heard you guys describe kind of getting the blue ad out there and talking to sellers, asking just a few questions to try to generate some leads. That might be a great way to kind of just get your foot in the water a little bit. But then, you know, I think you really do need somebody to kind of guide you along the way from that point forward. But just doing something, you know, reaching out to like you guys, for example, to maybe join a mentorship or somebody else, you know, I think that's really critical as well.
Yeah. Just diving in and actually getting your feet wet to doing the actual work. And realizing it's not as scary, because I'm not a person who likes to talk to people, and it's not as scary as you think.
That's awesome. So you can just hop on. You said Messenger, you were just messaging with them, and you know, you both work, you have little kids that you're homeschooling. So how did you even find the time to do this?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's lots of little time grab.
Well, that's fine. It stops most. Yeah, it stops most people. So I really, you know, take us back real quick, you know, or take us into your, you know, is it the hour you have 3-4 hours a day that you sit there?
No. Well, like looking at you. No.
Not usually, yeah.
It's like, does he do that? I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot of like, I know, like I do the social media side of things. So I do a lot of like that first thing in the morning, because that's when, before the kids are up, kind of deal. And then, or like program it to be able to launch on the certain days. But then putting the blue ads, it's like you're just finding the time throughout the day to put them in. It only takes a few minutes to put out multiple ads, although you don't want to be spammy, so you have to pace yourself. But like, so it's finding those little times, but then it's just going through the script with people. That's not like, you can be multitasking very easily with that of like, oh, I'm in the middle of even teaching, like, oh, okay, let me write that quick response in. Especially if you program it to your phone that you're just copying it over. Like it's very easy to, and then just finding time to actually call people when you have those calls. But I mean, those are very easily to schedule in, but you're not sitting for hours upon hours, especially like talking to one person at a time, like hours upon hours that you might do the more traditional route of going and seeing houses and all of this. So yeah.
I feel like the most productive people in the world are parents. I mean, you got to be able to bob and weave, right? You got to be able to find those little cracks in your day where I can fit in 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here. It's just moving that needle forward every single day, every week, even if it's just a tiny bit, right? Some weeks will be better than others, and that's totally okay. It's just taking those little steps that keep on moving you forward. And then before you know it, you're on the phone with the seller who says, yeah, I will do that. And then it gets to almost be, was it like surprising at first when they said, yeah, let's go ahead and do that? Were you like shocked?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it was kind of the feeling of, you know, you almost don't want them to say yes, because that means you have to learn a whole bunch of new stuff, but also super exciting at the same time. You know, kind of the fear and excitement all together.
I think from him starting the conversation with this Hanover house to him coming in and saying, hey, they said yes, we're working up the paperwork, was less than an hour from like start to like finish with this person. And I just was like, what? Like, You just started talking. Like, so it
Yeah.
just throws you off when they actually are so motivated and quick to saying yes.
Yeah, like, hey, we're buying a new house, right?
Some of those are the best deals. So I thank you for sharing that insight, because I think some people, they don't even start because they think I don't have the time. So maybe if you look at your schedule, there's maybe not a lot of Netflix binging or, extra outings with friends, or I know we've missed barbecues in the past, but it's just being super strategic with your time and having that burning desire of like, this is what we want to do. We want to grow our real estate portfolio. We want to help people with their houses, and we don't want to stop swinging that hammer.
Yep.
And so they say yay, everything is good. How hard was the paperwork? Was that really difficult or cumbersome to take you a long time?
It really wasn't. I mean, you helped me out with that, Joe. The first time filling one out is a little bit tricky, but you were able to walk me through it. And now it's like I've filled out a few other ones sort of prospectively, and it hasn't been all that challenging. And then, the attorneys take care of all the kind of the tricky stuff, or the title company. But
yay. Yeah. So it's sticking to the process, right? Because I can't tell you how many times people will say, Joe, like, I see step 20 is how to fill out an agreement. And before I do step 1, I need to know how to do step 20 first. And we're like, how crazy that sounds, right? Like, you're going to get there by doing step 1 first, and then you're going to realize the paperwork is really not that hard. And, sometimes that stops it. So having that clear process in place, you guys just did it, which is super awesome, because now that you did it once, are you able to do it again?
Yep.
Right. And since then you've done other deals, right? So that's the exciting thing too. And we'll have a different episode about those. But now that you did that first deal, creative finance, and you've done it from front to back, this is the gift, because now you guys could do them anywhere. And that's really, really exciting. So just want to say bravo.
Yeah. Great job, guys.
Yeah. Seriously, you guys came in and you did the thing. You're actually taking those little tiny steps, the series of small wins, as we call them. And before you know it, you're at the finish line. Now you have a renter who's doing rent to own the property. So you got a nice check when they moved in, and now you got some cash flow coming. None of the crazy phone calls, right? And now go back to the beginning and let's get more of these deals. So great job, gang. So thank you for coming on to our podcast. This is super exciting to talk about you and your deals. And guys, look forward to seeing more from Ryan and Abby, because these two are superstars. They are doing the thing. They're not full-time, but they're finding time to get it done. And the results are outstanding, and we couldn't be more proud of you guys. So great job.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. If you want that blue ad that they've referred to, then just head over to our website, creativefinanceplaybook.com, grab our free way to score leads. And with that comes those 10 questions that they were able to message back and forth, even while she's homeschooling her kiddos. It is that simple, guys. Don't miss out on that. So make sure you tune in for another episode next week and have an awesome investing journey. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you, guys.